Welcome back. We're picking up our discussion on the cancelling of Canada's historical figures. Is it right? Is it justified? Joining me is Patrice Dutil, a professor here in Toronto at formerly Ryerson University, and we're going to talk about that. So Egerton Ryerson, yes, you're right. He was blamed for the creation of the residential school system. Obviously, we've had um, an outrage towards that in recent years. I mean, it's been going on for decades, really, but it's kind of hit its apex here. Is he to blame? Is he spotless? Should he not have been canceled, or should he share some of this burden and the blame?
From a historical point of view, Egerton Ryerson is completely blameless. The residential schools were a creation of John A. Macdonald's government in 1883, 2 years after Egerton Ryerson died. Egerton Ryerson was a friend of the Indigenous people. He wanted to improve their education. He wanted to bring them into the mainstream. He wanted them to be participants in the economy of their day. He's blamed for one particular letter that he wrote in 1847, advocating that schools should be provided for students who want to attend, Indigenous students. And the point here was that they should learn how to read, how to write, how to do surveying, how to do mechanics, to be better farmers. Again, we're talking 1847 here. We're not talking 2013, 1847. Ontario was a farming community, and Egerton Ryerson was advocating a sophisticated education that would combine theory and practical. And what was his model? His model was a school in Switzerland. So when he was thinking about the Indigenous of Ontario, he was saying, let's use the best model in the world. Let's use the best model in the world, not some retrograde model, the best model in the world. And for that, he's being condemned. Now, I have to say, I'm not against name changes. There are errors that have been made, and it's entirely proper to change names. I don't disagree with it whatsoever. What I do disagree with is the method by which it is being done. It comes back to your very first question. Bring in experts. Do it right. If in a case of Egerton Ryerson, to have his name dragged through the mud was plain wrong. If the university thinks that it has to change its name in order to be internationally recognized, I buy it. Show me the figures. Show me that, the name Ryerson University does not resonate in New Delhi, that it does not resonate in Beijing, and that we are attracting students from those areas. I'll even buy that argument. But don't pretend that these historical figures did wrong. I'm opposed to people being dragged in the mud today. In their own time, I'm opposed to people being dragged in the mud, who shaped our society. Henry Dundas had an enormous impact on Ontario society. Egerton Ryerson gave us public education. He defended the rights of Catholics. He defended the rights of literacy. He promoted public libraries. He had a huge impact on how we see society. He brought in the first, it's fascinating, he created the beginnings of the ROM. Why? He wanted Ontarians to have a visual idea of what the great masterworks of Europe were. And so he went to Europe at taxpayers' expense and started collecting reproductions of the great paintings. Again, you got to remember, this is the 1860s. There is no internet. The only way you're going to learn what Rembrandt did or what Da Vinci did is to actually go and to see it.
And for our viewers, the ROM is the Royal Ontario Museum. It was a big museum here in Ontario, in Toronto.
So we're talking about a guy who creates museum, who creates the first normal school for training teachers. He's insisting on training teachers. He's insisting on local boards of education so that people get involved in the education of their kids. This guy was a great champion. And unfortunately, the Ryerson University process brushed that aside and said, well, no, he actually wrote this little letter in 1847 that justified an education that would combine practical and theoretical. And for that,
okay, I find
that wrong.
We only have 30 seconds to wrap it up. How would you like to see this process improved? Again, 25 seconds.
It has to be professionalized. Bring in experts. Bring in community experts. Bring in community representatives. Let's have the kind of debate that Canadians are known for around the world, a civilized debate that's based on facts. You do that, I'll be very happy and I'll stop complaining.
Okay, Patrice Dutil, again, Professor of Politics and Public Administration, Toronto Metropolitan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.